Yay.
There we go.
Yay.
We agree.
Yeah, don't look at the video. Actually, look at the buttons across the bottom where it says record.
30 minutes in, we're actually recording this. All right, let's get this show on the road. This program is already in progress, as you can tell. Welcome, everybody. You're Big Dog here. This is episode 2 of Fuzzybutts and Friends. Tonight, I'm very, very excited to have two near and dear friends of ours, Jim and Rene with Tripawds. These cool kids have been part of the Puppy Up family for a long time now. Guys, what was that? Prior to my walk one in Austin, Texas, we had a barbecue, I think, or something like that in Austin. And that's when I first met you guys. Is that right?
That's true. It was the kickoff party for the Austin to Boston walk, and we were honored to be there to help send you off.
With the Jerry, that was the inspiration tripods. So that was fun and really special.
Well, that's how I wanted to kick off this conversation, clearly, because that's what brought us together and still, in many ways, keeps us together, I think, united in this common cause is Malcolm and Jerry. And you're right, it was so great that the two that started my companion, my mate, that started my journey, Malcolm, and Jerry was certainly yours that started your journey as well, that it's like two titans got to meet, two titans that really, if you think about it, in many ways, we really were the early people in companion cancer and animal cancer, really trying to bring awareness when there was so little. But I wanted to start this talking about our two kids that brought us together. So tell me about Jerry.
I just step back just a second. I'm trying to think. I was remembering this morning when we first met, I got a phone call from you the day after we basically found out that Jerry's cancer had metastasized. We'll get to a story in a second, but this brought everything back, and we were so distraught. And you called to inform us about PBS, who was shooting Why We Love Cats and Dogs, and how you kind of referred them to us, and we got featured in that documentary they did. And then we met you up in Austin to Boston. Fast forward years later, we meet you in San Diego at the end of the walk.
That was a surprise.
But how it all began, Rene will tell you. Tell them about Jerry and how it all began.
Jerry was our first dog, and we were completely clueless dog parents at the time. We had only been together a couple of years and wanted a dog. So we went to the shelter, and actually it's really funny, Luke, because it was a choice between a dog who looked very much like a Great Pyrenees and Jerry, who looked very much like a shepherd. And the whole reason we wanted a dog was, I want protection. When Jim's traveling, I want a scary dog at home. and Jerry had the body of a German shepherd and the brain of just the sweetest dog in the world. But he was this puppy who came and jumped on our lap, and we're like, it's a no-brainer. Sorry, Great Pyrenees dog, we're gonna take this one.
I've never heard this story. I'm like dying over here. I've never heard this story. So you're telling me that you guys had a choice between two puppies, right? The red pill, the white pill, and the brown pill, or whatever it is.
Yes.
A Pyrenees and a German Shepherd, and you totally deny the Pyrenees.
Well, I would
have chosen the Shepherd.
She would have.
I would suffice it to say that he chose us. I mean, we had both opportunities. We both sat down, and the one that ran to us and jumped in the face was Jerry. And he was the one tearing apart a tub in his crate and his kennel there. And we thought, he's going to be a great ferocious guard dog for when I'm out of town with Rene. And he was once attacked by kittens. He was such a baby.
Was Jerry a mama's boy or a daddy's boy to start?
Say a little bit of both, but he was definitely bonded to Jim way more towards later in his life.
But we called him our chief fun officer. He was our CFO, the canine fun officer, because he kept us sane during the work days. We were working from home and working in the .com heyday and late hours, and he's the one that would like slam the paw on the keyboard at 5 o'clock and say time to go. And we'd go to the
how long after Jerry was diagnosed did you guys shut it down, say we're done with life as it is, we're going to get on the road and just adventure with Jerry?
So the diagnosis came at 8 years old. He was 8. So we had him for 8 years.
Yeah, we had him for 8 years. He was super sporty. He always went and did cool adventure things with us, hiking and beach running and stuff like that. And when we got the bad news, they give you the standard prognosis. You'll be lucky to get 6 months if you don't amputate.
Maybe a year if you do
maybe
chemo.
a year if you do chemo. Anyways, we were like, oh my God, if all we have is a year, let's do something drastically different. And we had friends who were travelers and kind of wandering souls. And, I just always kind of admired them, that they lived this untethered life. And so when we realized there was a big turning point for Jerry, I'm like, maybe it's time for us to make a change. And I'd say that happened maybe a couple of months after, not even that, maybe a month after we found out.
It was pretty shortly
I think everything
after.
was kind of leading up to it. So it wasn't like I just flipped the switch.
It was all her idea. Literally, I had no idea that she was thinking this. It was a couple months after the amputation, and like, oh, how's he going to swim? How are we ever going to do anything ever again? And she sat me down one day and said, I got an idea. Let's sell the house. Let's buy an RV. Let's travel the country with Jerry. Let's take a year off. And we budgeted for 1 year off, because the vet said he's got 6 months to a year. So we kind of planned a year off traveling the country. We got to the East Coast and Jerry was still loving life. We get down to Florida. He's still kicking it. And we were heading back. We saw you, and then we went on to Colorado. He ended up living, 2 years with osteosarcoma with no chemotherapy. This was 96.
Right.
2006.
Yeah. Whoa.
Woo, time's out.
2006.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
Malcolm, I think, was just shortly before you. Actually, he passed diagnosed in 2004 and passed in 06. And you're right. We certainly didn't have the basket of treatment options and therapies that we have today. And so Malcolm was almost 2 years, a little shy of 2 years. So that's certainly a wonderful outcome. And so your mission was very similar to my mission, in the sense, prior to Puppy Up, where I really didn't know what the hell I was doing when I started out, other than just I wanted to share Malcolm's story. Because the one thing I did know for myself, being a fairly educated guy, and also growing up in my dad was a doctor, and so growing up in a medical sort of a household, I was I think it was my late 20s when he was diagnosed. And at that time, I didn't know dogs got cancer. It never even occurred to me. I never heard anybody, none of the veterinarians I had when I had Malcolm, when I was raising him, none of them said, hey, man, Great Pyrenees, they get, it's really a good tendency that they're going to get bone cancer. So like you guys, sort of, I felt like phase one of my mission was just getting the word out there, just telling Malcolm's story to as many people as I could. And you guys did that with Jerry for sure. You guys travel. How many miles did you travel? Did you ever, well, you're still traveling. That's the great thing, like me. That's the thing that brings us together, really. It's such an honor to have you here, Jim and Rene, for episode 2 of Fuzzybutts and Friends, because really, we're lifers, right? We've gone on to have subsequent kids. You've only had Wyatt since Jerry, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I've had 4. I guess, yeah, I'm on my 5th now, oddly enough. But
he's addicted to Great Pyrenees.
Something like that, yeah. Ginger and I did an interview last night, and that was one of her questions: was I addicted to Pyrenees? I'm like, I guess. I mean, something's wrong with me for sure. But one of the things I think that brings us together spiritually, other than our passion and our desire to bring adventure and enrichments to our companions, especially when they have such a deadly disease, is that we're lifers. Is that it doesn't matter how many puppies we have subsequent to Jerry or Malcolm, is that we're in this for the remainder of our life. I know for sure, till the day I'm making sure everything I do continues on well beyond my years. So Malcolm's legacy, and Murphy, and now Hudson, unfortunately, their legacies will live well beyond my years. And you guys are the same way. And that's so wonderful. Because one of my frustrations, and I don't want to grind on pet parents, but it is I do want to talk about disappointments in your experiences, because I know we both had a lot. I thought we'd be further along in Puppy Up, and certainly our awareness, but it really has been a struggle. And one of the reasons I find is that just the average typical pet parent, unfortunately, I think, is that they go through cancer and it's a very traumatic experience, and then they're very active for the first year or two, and then they adopt a new puppy, and then they move on the cycle of life. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. That's how it should be. But there should be people like us out there that say it doesn't matter, Malcolm. I don't know how many years Malcolm is in the past. It doesn't matter if Malcolm's 40 years in my past. I'm always here. I'm in it for him, and I'm in it to the end for sure. And you guys are the same way. I love that.
So true. And the stories are so similar. And you talked about, the mission. And that first year on the road, our mission was just to live life to the fullest with Jerry, pay him back for all those years that he gave us. Over that time frame, he kind of helped us find our purpose, which is to do exactly what you're talking about and let his legacy live on through Tripawds members, but creating a platform for them. We have members whose dogs have died of cancer years ago, who still participate in the forums, who still answer our Tripawds helpline and, donate and they're still there. And our mission and our purpose is to help other people going through what we did, so they never have to feel like we did at that time. They're not alone, and you're not alone if you're listening.
Absolutely, and that's why you guys have built such a wonderful community with Tripawds, and we have with Puppy Up as well. But there is this need, because we're seeing 2 to 4 million cases a year, so many new cases of cancer. There's just going to be a continued need for us to get out there and raise awareness. And unfortunately, I have met a few veterinary oncologists in my travels. We'll get to that. My frustrations with that community, I guess, in a little while if we have time. But some of that don't. Some veterinary oncologists that just don't appreciate the value of education and awareness. They live in that world 24/7, and they don't understand. And so you travel all around America like you guys did, or walk, in my case, all around 4,000 miles cross country in my case, and you meet so many people, and you still meet people that don't know that dogs get cancer, or that they get the same types of cancer that we get. Now that's changed dramatically, I'm sure, as you guys know, from when Jerry was first diagnosed, and certainly when Malcolm. And I certainly credit your efforts, and certainly Puppy Up and our efforts played no small part in that, the work that you guys have done and we've done at Puppy Up, really to continue to get out there and bring education and awareness. Because it doesn't matter where, or even today, I still talk to people that maybe they've heard about it, but they just don't know how big of a problem it is. And the message I'd like to bring to pet parents who have been through, unfortunately, that have been through the trauma and tragedy of cancer and their companions, one thing I do like to say is, I think it's so great that you move on, but unfortunately, we need you to stay with us, because now the statistics are so high that chances are one of your next dogs is going to get cancer. It's just that common, as you guys know.
Oh, we've seen it. We've had the unfortunate experience of having members come back because their next dog got cancer. We've had members deal with osteosarcoma 2 and 3 times in the pets that they've had since first joining us many years ago. So it does, it is something that needs to stay on top of everybody's mind, because it's out there.
And they're getting younger. Close to 2 and 4 months old. It used to be just like, giant breeds and older dogs. Now
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Now it's cats.
Cats.
What's the youngest age you've seen in a puppy or cat or kitty cat that you've seen cancer?
4 months, wasn't it?
No.
Wow.
I think we did have
the one that comes to mind is a 4-month-old.
6 months was mine. Wow. Was that cat or dog?
That was a dog.
Dog.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's wild.
Well, I just tell everybody, cancer is no longer a disease of old age. So we can't look at it as a disease of old age. It's in our genes. It's in our companions' genes, and it's a very complex disease. But one of the things I love about Tripawds, and I kind of want to pivot the conversation, is one of the things I love about you guys is you're not limited just to cancer. Is that Tripawds is about all 2 and 3-legged cats and dogs. I was going to say 1-legged, but I don't think you've ever seen a 1-legged. Now with
we've had a chicken. We've had a 1-legged chicken join us.
And immobile dogs. I mean, there's dogs that have limbs, but
Unipawed?
Bird.
Uniclaw. So yeah, for whatever reason, we've seen snake bites and horse kicks and shot, dogs getting shot and jumping out of the side of the car.
Fungal infections.
But the majority it is bone cancers in particular, and soft tissue sarcomas and mast cell tissues. Cancer is the majority of the reasons people are usually told, amputation is a good option to improve the quality of life. We like to inform people that no, amputation will not get rid of the cancer in vast majority of cases, but it will get rid of the pain. The tumor pain is just going to keep getting worse, and it's going to end up in pathological fracture, and that's very traumatic. And amputation isn't always the right choice depending on the size of the dog, the age of the dog, but it's going to buy quality of life. And that's what those 2 years with Jerry was all about. We had the great quality of life, and we didn't necessarily have that quantity. And that's what hurts when people come and they get sent home with the medication and they find tripods, or they ask the vet, how long does he have? Well, the dog doesn't really track that time. And it's all about the quality of life. He's going to adapt, adjust, overcome, and the people are the ones that freak out. And that's why we exist.
Right. And you do such a great job of that, Jim and Rene, because you talk to so many experts around the country. I really like that, is that a lot of your focus is educating people and letting them know, because I know on my travels, backpacking cross country, a lot of what I saw was rural America, and that means country vets. And I can't tell you how many pet parents I met on my travels that said, boy, when my boy started limping, I took him to my vet, and vet said, well, maybe cancer, maybe not, probably not. There's no reason to do a biopsy. Just when he can't limp, when he can't walk around anymore, just put him down. And I tell you, it just floors me. I was going to use another word, but this is PG rated. I won't use that word. I'm heartbreaking. Yeah, it really is. That in all seriousness, it really is heartbreaking that there are so many country vets that's how they view cancer, and also dogs that need amputation as well. I'm sure they see so many traumatic cases that require amputation, that their default is, well, there's no need to go through all that surgery, don't know how much longer to live. So you see a lot of cases. So a lot of what you do is you probably work with a lot of orthopedic surgeons to also educate people that some of the cases that might be perceived as unsalvageable or unsavable, that they can be with. So what's going on in technology? What are some exciting things with prosthetics? And then I want to segue that into a conversation about Grayson, my adventure, and then the physical aspects of 2- and 3-legged companion animals.
Let's get into that, but real quick about what you were talking about. It really hurts us when we hear there's still vets out there that will send someone home after an amputation and say, just go let him be a dog, he'll be fine. Or people go to Facebook and they'll say, he'll do great. And that may be the case for certain dogs, but when it comes down to it, it's our responsibility to be their best health advocate, because that dog is just going to adapt, adjust the gait, adjust the stance, and go and hurt himself. And they'll go crazy and hurt themselves. And it's really our responsibility to moderate activity to a certain extent and focus on proper rehab to regain that strength. And that's why we talk to the best orthopedic surgeons in the world
and rehab therapists,
Davis and CSU and rehab therapists.
As tripods, we feel a responsibility to let people know that if they have the luxury of time before amputation, they should do their homework, get multiple opinions in a lot of cases, because we see so many situations where an amputation, a full amputation, isn't really necessary. In the old days, they would just take the whole leg, and that's been the default way for a long time. But with the development of prosthetics, many animals are good candidates now. It's just that you have to go get that opinion from an orthopedic surgeon who's done amputation with prosthetics in mind
prior to surgery.
So if you come to us after surgery and they've taken the scapula and everything from your dog's front leg, your options are very limited. There's one product out there. It looks good. It's a support. It's not a prosthetic. It's a full body harness kind of thing. And it's got a little leg on it, and the dog can get some support out of it, but it's not going to give the dog the full mobility that a true prosthetic would. So we are really, really passionate about giving people the information before. So that's why Tripawds Foundation actually has a bunch of brochures that we can send to anybody who asks for them at no charge, with a list of questions inside to address with your vet. And if your vet doesn't have those answers, go find someone who does.
Yeah, we provide them free to vet clinics and rehab clinics and cancer centers so that they can give them to the pet parent to understand these questions that need to
Right.
be addressed, other than just being told, oh, he'll be fine.
Yeah, and that old way
Right.
of thinking that, you know, yes, dogs do have a spare leg, cats do have a spare leg, but over time there's going to be a price they pay for that. So that's
Right.
why we started the rehab reimbursement program, so that every new tripod parent could go out there and get an evaluation to find out what their dog's capabilities are and what their limitations are. Because I can't tell you, I don't know your dog, but an expert who has spent many years studying mobility and kinetics in dogs can tell you. So we pay for that first consult. Up to $200, we'll pay even in the UK, Canada. We don't care. We just want tripods to be seen by these folks so that somebody doesn't come back to us a year after amputation and say that their dog's cruciate ligament blew out because they're playing Frisbee too much.
Which we learned
So,
the hard way
yeah,
with
it happened
Jerry.
to
We didn't know
us.
any of this back then. And
Right.
hey, we were sharing videos on YouTube and looking him play. He's on the beach. He loves Frisbee. Look at this. And then we
Mhm.
find out he's got a partial ACL tear going on. And that was kind of
Yeah.
a wake up slap in the face to say, tell the world we're not vets. It's the first thing we say, people. We're not vets. But guess what? We've interviewed the best orthopedic surgeons and best rehab professionals in the world and the best oncologists. And we want that, you know, credible information from verifiable sources out there. And we post that free of charge and available Tripod Talk Radio, on the website, everywhere.
And like, as far as the technology when it comes to prosthetics, it has come a very long way. It's still evolving. And again, it comes back to whether or not the person has the luxury of time before surgery to decide how that amputation will be done to make a prosthetic more successful. Because not all of them are, but if you have the right situation, if you're committed to the financial costs and the time costs of training your dog to use a prosthetic, they can be life altering. They can really, really, over the long haul, they can boost quality of life, lessen the arthritis.
Let's talk about that. That's a lot to take.
Sure.
I'm trying to break
Sure.
it down into segments. That's a lot for your big dog's head to take in one segment. So I gotta. It's like Ginger gave me a 7-part question in our interview the other day. I'm like, whoa! I'll take the 7-part first, and I can't remember any of the other ones. So
Well, you know how he talks. I had to get all my questions in at one time.
I'm a yapper, no doubt about it. But prosthetics is exactly what I want to talk about because that's relevant to Grayson and what I'm in. And it's very, very, very interesting because pet parents actually have that option now. They have that option if you, like you said, if they have the financial wherewithal, of course, and the time to train. But are there studies, large studies, long-term studies? You just made the assertion that dogs do better. So what studies are out there with prosthetics and dogs? Do they live longer lives, longer? Tell me about the studies.
We actually have a 2019 CSU study in our Tripods News blog. And what it found was that it was a retrospective study, but they found that pet parents do say that the prosthetics have greatly improved their animal's quality of life. That their dog adapted really well to it. And most of them were really happy with the outcome. I think only like 1 or 2 were not. But, you know, it's as far as giving them a better life, what it does is by taking that extra stress off of the remaining limbs when they're moving around, they're decreasing the onset of osteoarthritis. The effects can be so severe. We saw that in Wyatt, our 3-legged shepherd, who was missing a rear leg from the time he was 8 months old. And by the time he was 12, the dog had horrific osteoarthritis in his back end.
Poor fella.
So
I
if
loved him.
yeah, he was a wild thing. But if the surgeon hadn't taken his entire leg, all they needed to do was take the paw. He could have had a prosthesis. I could have, would have, should have. But it would have helped make his last few years much more comfortable.
Well,
And
that right
back,
there is such a. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, it comes back to the importance of awareness and information, especially ahead of time if you have the ability, because, and why we interview the experts. We interviewed Dr. Denis Musselman-Little from UC Davis, who was the first one to affix internally fixated
Osseointegration.
an osseo-integrated prosthetic, which means it actually attaches to the bone. It's not an externally fixated thing. And he explained that the more articulating joints you have, the better success you're going to have with a prosthetic. Like this one device out there that is a good looking support for a front leg amputee, attaches after the amputation, but it doesn't bend. I don't see in any way how it could go up and down a stairs. Whereas if you have like a shoulder or an elbow, at best, then you can have a thing that's actually moving organically with the animal. So it's all about information.
Right, exactly. So let's start there. So are the prosthetics that are being used out there, are they permanent or are they temporary or are they a mix of that? Is it a permanent thing? Do they drill in to then permanently attach the prosthetic?
So that's the two types I was talking about.
Yeah, there's two types. So there's the osseointegration, the ones that actually get implanted and cemented into the bone. Those are pretty rare because they just still haven't quite perfected it. Last time we talked to Dr. Marcelin, that was like 2 years ago, and he said, you know, it's still a hit or miss kind of thing.
A lot of infection issues, healing issues.
Yeah. So the ones that are out there now are external. You can take them off every day, on and off, on and off. But they're never a permanent thing, because the thing about a prosthetic is it's going to always need some type of adjustment, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year. But a residual limb will shrink and change over time on a human or a dog. And so the socket that the prosthetic attaches to the body with changes. And so the equipment to attach it always need to be tightened or loosened.
Right.
And then also the bottom of the prosthetic will wear out. The tread often needs to be replaced. A lot of that, like that kind of thing, the pet parent can do at home. But the sizing adjustments and things like that typically have to be done by a professional.
And this really breaks my heart when we hear from the well-meaning people who say, my husband has a 3D printer and we're going to print a prosthetic, or we've been contacted from many schools saying, oh, our lab has decided to produce a prosthetic for a 3-legged dog or a cart. And we honestly just tell them, you know, get back to us after you work with a vet. Talk to a CCRT, a certified rehab therapist. And when that person's on board with your team, we'll gladly get involved, because I'm not a vet, but those people know the mechanics of the dogs and how a centimeter off in these measurements can throw the spine out of whack.
Right. So speaking of, there's a company I got turned on to. I read an article, I think, called Pet Bionics. I friended them on Facebook. You're familiar with them? I'd like to talk to those guys. Do you know them?
Is it Derek?
Yeah, Derek Campagna. Yeah. It's Bionic Pets, and he's the one who he and his team at Dive Design. We actually have an interview with a vet who talks about what they created. That's the external brace, so it attaches to a dog front legger. And
for a full limb amputation, they've developed a harness that has a brace on it and a tread, so that it'll support the body and run, but it won't flex yet. So I'm sure they're working on that.
Bionic Pets also does a traditional prosthesis too, so they do the kind with the full mobility.
So is there a potential then for Grayson on our walkthrough to potentially have a temporary prosthetic?
So we haven't seen any similar product for a rear legger yet.
Oh, I think only a rehab therapist could tell you that.
Yeah.
But if there is,
no, I wasn't asking your advice professionally. I was just curious.
So honestly, we haven't seen.
I was curious if you'd heard or seen anything like that on your travels, an instance like that.
Is he missing? How much of the rear is he missing? The whole thing?
Well, that was the next thing I was going to say is clearly they took the whole thing off, because his dingling is
he's got the hemipelvectomy, right? He's got sometimes the hips gone.
No, sometimes.
Okay.
But
I never learned the Latin, but that's I should have learned what the Latin is. But that certainly that makes a perfect point to what you were saying, Rene, is that had the Great Pyrenees Rescue, wonderful folks there, love them to death. Barbara will make sure that they have your literature. I'm not sure how many legs they're cutting off Pyrenees there at that rescue, but had they know them, I don't know where the injury was. Ginger, do you? But my understanding, which I told him not to tell me much because I get very, I hear about abuse in dogs and I want to destroy and hurt. I become mad, and that's not good for anybody, isn't it? Well, so I try to stay out of that. So Ginger, do you know the extent of the wound? Would he have been potentially?
All I know is that it was an abuse situation. There was an open wound that the doctor couldn't get to heal. So I'm guessing the infection, maybe that's why they took the whole thing, or they just didn't know, that they didn't have to take the whole leg. I have no idea.
So anything we can do on our end, Puppy Up's end, to help get that literature out before that decision is made, because it's the same with Puppy Up. We want to be in there prior to any decision making, or at least a part of that process, because the fact that we know that there are, well, let's just say it's like any other profession. It has progressed and evolved in a short period of time, and that's great. I love the veterinary oncology community. So many wonderful, talented, bright, brilliant people there as well. A couple of bad actors, and it's still fairly small, so there's some challenges. But what I don't think is, I don't think there's a really good representation of pet parents there in that community. And I've been trying to change that, and always looking at new ways. And one way or another, we'll have a bigger presence going forward, because the fact of it is, we're the pet parents of the ones that are taking care of the 2 to 4 million new cases every year. So really, the onus is on us to work better together as a community. And one of my frustrations are some of the other groups and organizations that are involved with pet cancer, and they don't collaborate, unfortunately. So it's a couple. I think that that's something we should definitely work towards. Together, our two foundations, because we need to make sure that the right information gets to the pet parent. Really, right. I think I say at the point of diagnosis, really, bam, that's where it needs to happen. As much information as we can give them, and that's another thing.
Before.
Right. Well, before diagnosis, that would be better. Exactly. Actually, before, you're right, because they're preventative things and
prepared for
preparations. Right. Puppy Up, we have that the 10 early warning signs of cancer, which is a great guide, because as you know, typically when a dog becomes symptomatic, the cancer is very well developed, and at times it's already metastasized, which is the real killer. Right, the second tumor site is the real killer. Well, I don't want to talk too much about cancer, because you guys are much more than that, and I think that's important to know. You touched about the foundation, the wonderful grants you're giving there. We'll get into that later, I guess, if you want to. We're doing pretty good on time. What are the I'll know about this fairly soon. I'm very excited to spend time with PetVet, the CCRT. Rehab facility here in the Memphis area. While we're here in Memphis, I'm very excited to work with them. So I want to break down what are the therapy options. But did you guys with Wyatt, did you do physical rehab, hydrotherapy? Tell me about rehab. Talk to us about rehab. What should we do? What should I be doing with Grayson and physical, hydro, and exercising?
So to answer that question is go to PetFit or whoever it is, and they will tell you what's best for your dog, because every one of them's different. Front and rear are different dog breeds are different. And the CCRT or CCRP, the canine certified rehab therapist, can help provide the right treatment modalities and exercises you can do at home, because walking alone doesn't build the strength necessary, the core balance strength, the proprioception exercises. So every dog's different. It's a certified therapist can answer that question, but we know personally.
Well, the number one thing that anybody can do, really, even above and beyond rehab, is keep your dog slim.
Weight management.
Will do more for your dog than anything in the world, the fastest. The sooner you can get your dog down to a body condition score that's just around, I think we were told about 3. No, that's too skinny. It was like somewhere between a 4 and a 5. Like, you want your dog to be thin enough to feel some ribs, see a waist. And the tripods need to be thinner than their traditional breed type. So
because they're compensating for extra weight on an additional limb.
Yeah.
So they
Front
need to be
leggers in
underweight.
particular.
They need to be underweight by what? Like 10%?
Somewhat.
just like a half of a body. So if you've ever
On
seen
the
the
trim
Purina
side.
body condition chart, where it's got like 1 to 5, you want your dog to be a little
a 4.
under the ideal weight.
Okay.
That's what we were told by therapists. You want just slightly under ideal weight. As
Sounds
far
logical.
as why it goes, yeah, it's just the more weight you have, the harder it is to throw that weight around.
Boy, I know
One
that.
way that if you go and get on all fours, get on your hands and knees, lift whatever leg your dog is missing,
Start doing your
lift that
plank.
off the ground, and then start moving around, you're going to see how your body compensates for that movement. And it's very interesting because when you watch your tripod walk around, your tripod does the same thing.
I'm going to
So-
film Luke doing that.
I would love you to do that. I film myself doing it as part of a course that we took.
That's totally going to be a training video, is have me to simulate me being Grayson.
Do it because
You'll
it's
discover that
eye-opening.
you're using your core and your spine and your neck and your shoulders to
Right.
compensate for a missing leg.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Well, that's something I definitely want to speak to about, because I did yoga for a while prior to the pandemic, and I want to do it again because I have to train for myself, because as I'm now, this is my 3rd walk and I'm going to be doing it in my 50s. And so I have a different operating environment than when my first walk in my 30s, my second walk in my 40s. And so I, doing yoga, I began to value, totally understand, appreciate core strength. It's so important, so powerful. And so with Grayson, I was kidding with you guys on social media when shortly after I got him. I was like, man, when he urinates, when he pees, it just goes everywhere. He's just sloshing around because he's got no strength
The
there.
balance.
And he has no counterbalance there with the leg. And so anyway, it's like a spigot. It's like a loose fire hose. And so I
Stay out of the way.
I was asking you, joking with you, if they have some type of sling or some type of anyway. But all kidding aside, you were so great, Rene, in your response. You said, however, that's a core strength problem that you need to address sooner rather than later. And you're so right about that. So tell me, Rene and Jim, how do they have dog yoga, or is that just, what are other ways other than PT and the CCRT? What are other ways that Grayson and I can help work on his core strength, help this pecker strength out?
Sure. There are some
Sure.
basics, of course.
There's when you go for a walk, get off the concrete, go on grass, find an uneven surface where you and your dog can walk, because for your dog to know where their feet are on the ground is really good for balance training, and it also strengthens their core because they're moving around, they're trying to figure out which way to go. Keeping your walks consistently flat is not going to do anything for either of you. So look for those uneven surfaces. Find a
hillside. and
Yeah.
walk lengthwise on the hillside so they end both directions.
If you walk around a parking lot, find those parking slot dividers and have Grayson step up on one, step down, maybe walk over and back and forth around the dividers up and down the parking lot. That's also something really fun
good
that
idea.
you can
Yeah.
do.
Those weight bearing exercises, there's a number of fitness tools out there you can use. We have the gear.tripods.com/fitness, or you can just use cushions off the couch. What it creates is unstable surface work. So as they walk, the surface sinks and they have to adjust. And it's adapting the proprioception, which is the body's awareness of where the feet and the body are in space. But another one is having them walk through a ladder or cavaletti poles that you set up, something like
Just
that.
little obstacles on the ground. Put some brooms and rakes down and have them,
the weight bearing thing. You don't need the big, canine fit paws fit ball. But if Rene was saying, you could get the front legs up on something, it puts more weight on that one remaining back limb. And you stand up there and you lure treats to each side, which helps strengthen the core. Back, get off, take a break, do it again. And then there's the difference between swimming and hydrotherapy. There's a reason vets use a treadmill that's underwater, because everyone you hear, oh, swimming's great for tripods. Well, sure, to an extent. But the difference is the best swimming you can do with a tripod at first is in chest deep water where they can just reach the bottom. That's what the vets are doing on the treadmill. They want to see that dog reaching for the bottom and getting that extension out there rather than just paddling up here. They want to reach for the bottom. And that kind of can be done without water using prom exercises. The passive range of motion things can be in your quiet time when you're massaging your dog, and you just gently give full range of motion in every
Just
direction,
gentle.
or especially on that one remaining front limb. You want to stretch it out.
In my quiet times when I'm massaging Grayson.
Sure.
That's gonna be neat. That'll be
Yeah.
neat.
Right.
But the reason I'll explain real quick is, the compensated gait of a tripod is very short. That's why they hop instead of run. They're not extending that front leg like when they're running, they're hopping along. So those muscles never really get to fully extend.
They tighten up.
So you want direction from a certified therapist, disclaimer, but yeah, you gently stretch it so it's out and then pull it so it's back. And a therapist can show you like to what point. You don't want to.
Well, we understand that kinesthetically, actually. So I know for me, part of my training is going to be flexibility to maintain that. So I just got the warning sign. My internet connection is unstable.
You dropped a little bit, but bottom line is those things can be fun, and it's better than walks, because walks help build stamina, but not necessarily the strength.
Do you have exercise videos on your tripods community where people exercise with their dogs?
We've actually teamed up with Dr. John Waterhouse, who's a CCRT and a veterinarian, who's developed a course for front leggers and another one for rear leggers, which is like, if you didn't have access to a therapist near you, these are the basics, the type of things that you want to go through. And it has videos and tips and worksheets and logs that you can keep.
I'm totally going to do that. Please send that to me. Sure. And I'm going to film us doing it.
It's on your website as well?
Yeah, so that one would be at downloads.tripods.com. So Tripods community has the gear blog, the downloads blog, and in downloads, you'll find these courses for front or rear leggers, or there's one for dogs with osteoarthritis, no matter how many legs they have.
Okay.
So I'm visualizing this now. I think I'm going to dress up as Richard Simmons, and
I don't want to see those shorts.
I'm not filming that.
Do a dancing.
I'm not going to participate in that at all. At all.
I see a TikTok viral video.
Yeah. You know what? I tell you what, I'm going to dress Grayson up as Richard.
There you go.
Grayson, yes, No.
All right, that's I can't wait to use that as a resource, and we're going to film it. We'll post it. That's what I love about your community. You guys you're a wellspring, a wealth of information, and a knowledge base too, where, as you and I were just speaking earlier, just the importance and value of knowledge base. So everyone doesn't have to go through this the first time all over again, where if we can accelerate that process or compress that process down to pointed out, like you said, before diagnosis, but at least when diagnosis comes, already have a plan in place. Have a place to go, Action plan ready to go in place. We're nearing the 50-minute mark, so I want to give you the opportunity. Do you have Wyatt? I was reviewing my notes and I put Jerry and Malcolm at top, of course, and I was like, I'm such a dunderhead. Wyatt, he's not on there. So please tell us about Wyatt, because I didn't know him as well as I think Jerry, but tell us about Wyatt.
So we talked about his issues a bit, but at 8 months old or so, coincidentally, this is Unchain a Dog Month, and Wyatt was one of those dogs that was tethered in a backyard and neglected to the point where a chain or tether strangulated the limb, and it was low on the limb. But the people at some point, bless their hearts, they took the dog to the vet, and the vet said this leg has to come off, and they said then put him down. We don't want a three-legged German Shepherd. And the vets and the techs said, don't worry about it, we'll take care of it, you just go away. And they took care of the amputation by amputating the whole limb, and we kind of talked about that. But having learned what we knew about rehab, we immediately got him into a program and learned what would be best for him, and helped him live more than 12 years on that one remaining back leg.
Great for you guys. Wonderful.
As he traveled many more miles than Jerry did. He's been to Alaska, he's been around the country, out to Virginia and back, and lost him in November of 2020.
Yep.
Right. So sorry for your loss. I really am, and
Thank you.
and I know it's been hard for you, and you haven't found your next kid, your next companion in your adventures, and whatever I can do to help you with that. Actually, you know what? There are days I might actually just send Grayson your way. He might arrive at your doorstep one day, and with a
You might get that
name.
Pyrenees after all.
Yeah. Gracilla or something like that, or
Funny.
you never know. No, I love him. He's probably not smarter than a potted plant, but he's about he's the sweetest guy. So he's the opposite of Wyatt. I know that was the biggest challenge you had with Wyatt, but now I understand why he was so pissed off. That was how he was raised. I mean, I'd be pissed off too, man. It's hard for me to not the rage and tears and stuff. So
there was some trauma there.
God bless you for what you did, and God bless you for that. And if we could, that in of itself is a message that, hey, you know, rescue dogs out there and rescue tripods, because that's what you guys do, is you adopt tripods. And I didn't know the experience. Of course, Malcolm became a tripod with me after he got cancer, so I knew him four-legged. But Grayson, it's been a wonderful experience. But I'm telling you, it's perfect that we reconnected at this time. Especially because, you know, walk 3, as you know, you were kidding yesterday. As you know, I take Grayson's health, happiness, and safety are priority number 1.
Of course.
Walk 3, or else it doesn't exist. I mean, I'll do it by myself if anything's compromised. Indiana, obviously, he's retired, so he's not walking anywhere. But Grayson is, but obviously I don't know, and this is why I'm so excited to work with the experts that you guys are referring, potentially Pet Bionics, Eddie's Wheels, whoever, whatever we can work to find some maybe basket of like a plan, like have like a walk plan for him. This happens, and then if something happens, here's contingency plan A, plan B, plan C. And so we're going to have all that in place. So I want to talk about that briefly, because I got to tell you, I don't know. I'm scared, but I know this. I know this is that whatever, unlike the West Coast, we're not going to be in the wilderness up in upstate New York and then all the way down through Hudson Valley down to New York City. So we're going to have access to people. So we're going to have plans in place. If anything happens on the road, that he's going to be safe. Knock on wood. But I do want to hear, I thought about your idea about a cart, and a cart in itself creates so many logistical problems, not that they're insurmountable in the sense that it's going to be mountainous. And when you were saying cart, are you thinking about a cart that he walks in, or a cart that I push him in? What are your thoughts? Tell me what your thinking is.
So I was mentioning a stroller. Different than a wheelchair / cart that people tend. Wyatt had both, and both were very useful tools at different points in his life. He had a cart / wheelchair that he would get in, and it would help support his one remaining rear limb, and we'd be able to go on much longer walks.
But he didn't have that until he was 10 or 11. And it's interesting to think about. I'm curious what the rehab therapist will say about a cart for Grayson, because it might possibly be an option for this walk. I don't know. Traditionally,
but there's still a lot of
therapists say that
activity.
You shouldn't put a tripod in a cart until they actually need one. You don't want to put them in too early. But I don't know. I'm curious to see what they'd say about that.
But when it comes to the strollers
are different.
So I have to push him.
Yes, it does.
I have to push.
The one that we had for Wyatt was also a bike trailer. So you could put him in the back.
But it wouldn't necessarily be a walk.
It would be a ride, but you could, carry the rest of your stuff on your bike.
I'm going to figure out how to mechanize it. I'm going to automate this. So I'm
sure.
Gonna,
you get an e-bike motor
Tesla
and assist,
and see if Tesla can put some type of solar power pack or something. I can just
work with some e-bike manufacturer.
We're going to walk in style.
Yeah. But what it does is it allows you to cover many more miles, because you can walk a bit and then jump in the stroller, stroll a bit, when you got to go potty, you get out, you walk around a bit. And it allowed us to have a lot of fun, much longer walks with Wyatt, because we'd stroll along and he would just be there, yap, 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 looking at things. And then we'd get somewhere and we'd walk a while, and it breaks up it a bit, and relieves a lot of pressure on those remaining limbs.
Right, because as we were talking earlier, is that one of my big concerns is repetition injuries, because we're going to be doing, yes, we're not doing a lot of strenuous exercise and work. It's going to be broken up into small spurts, but repetition injuries, those occur. And once they occur, then you're sidelined for long periods. So as you know, this certainly pertains to me and my health as well. My job for myself, because I have to take care of myself to take care of Grayson, right, is that I have to avoid repetition injuries, because if I start getting a foot injury, it will just progressively get worse to where I can't walk, and then I'm sidelined for a week or a month. So however long.
And then Grayson's pushing you.
God help us all.
Strap on the harness.
At least it's not Hudson driving us. God bless him. So
yeah.
Hudson was not much of a driver, so I miss him. So see that wonderful painting of him behind me?
Yes, I love it.
So much to talk about, so many wonderful things going on in his honor and memory for his legacy that we're going to be announcing very soon. I can't wait to share with you guys, and hope to partner with you guys as well, because Puppy Up's mission and Tripawds' mission parallel all the way. Because it is all about the power of companionship, the power of that value and the beauty, and in your case, the underdog, and also in our case, we are all about the underdog. So I kind of have this idea of Puppy Up and Tripawds working on this underdog campaign, because that's what we're about.
Fantastic.
And now that I'm have a different operating environment on the walk, I'm not sure I'd be betting on myself. I'm not sure what the Vegas or Lloyd's of London odds are going to be on me for walk 3. No, it will be great. I'm excited about it. Hope you guys can be there for the end of the walk as you were for walk 2, the West Coast walk in San Diego. It's so great having you there. So now I want to give the mic to you guys. Is there any message that you would like to convey, to share with, to speak to veterinarians or pet parents?
Yeah, and I think our messages are so similar and intertwined in so many ways. And at the core is awareness and educating people about these things. And when it comes to the veterinarians, we'll be doing a talk soon to an educational institution of vets to be, about what they need to know to communicate to the pet parent, because so many get sent home with a bag of meds, and the worst of them say that he'll be fine, or they're sending them home with some tramadol, and whatever it is, we need them to communicate certain things logistically about recovery and care. So it all comes back to awareness. And just yesterday we announced our largest, newest awareness campaign, and that's Tri Day. So the first official Tripod Awareness Day is going to be March 3rd, 2022. And we've been celebrating Tri Day 3-3 on, 3-3, because 3 is a magic number. And we've been celebrating it in the Tripawds community for years now. But now we've officially, attempting to get it out there on calendars and spreading the word. And it's got its own website, and it's going to have its own little meme where people can print out the little placard. They got the placard, and they take a picture, and they say, "My Tri is my hero. My Tri is my co-pilot. My Tri is not handicapped. My Tri is whatever it means to you." And you share that photo, and we'll get you and your amazing 3-legged animal on the triday.pet website. So it's up and running now, triday.pet, and we're going to populate it with all of these meme photos that people submit. And then on Tri Day, we're just going to make the world know that tripods are awesome, and they can be even more awesome with our help.
Well, keep us updated on that, so we can put some information out
Certainly
in our newsletter and social media as well.
Certainly. We announced it just yesterday, so we'll share that.
Okay.
Oh, you just announced it yesterday. Oh, I didn't know that. Well,
Yeah, so there's an
congratulations.
official release and announcement. The Triday.pet website is up with a sheet of facts that people can send to local media to coordinate an event in your area and get media to show up and get all the three-legged dogs and cats together. And the announcement is at tripaws.com news blog, and the Triday.pet website is up and running to, download the placard or the images that you want to share on social media and just get that word out there, because we're all about awareness of being a proper pet parent to tripods and dogs with cancer.
Excellent. So you sent Ginger the handbook and the PDF handbook. Thank you for that. I meant to say, can you get any other source materials and links to Ginger so we can post that when we post this? This will be posted at fuzzybuttsstudios.com and .org. And that's our YouTube channel. We're going to have our web series and the Fuzzybutts and Friends. So that's where we're going to be having this. You said a second ago, it all comes down to awareness. And I can assure you, there are a few people that I know that need to hear that. So thank you so much, Jim and Rene with Tripods. Ginger, I'm not really sure what you were doing here because you never had a tripod.
Did you just say I've never had a tripod?
You haven't, have you? Oh my God,
oh
my God, oh no, I forgot Buddy, oh no.
Yeah, you know what? He's not waiting for you at the bridge anymore.
Oh no, I'm going to hell. Well, he was a tripod
We're
and a
not going to
half.
pass go.
No, he was a tripod and a half. He actually had half a limb. That's a tripod and a half. Dr. Seuss would have written a book about him, a tripod and a half.
And a great prosthetic candidate.
Bud man, okay, Ginger, we need to do something special for Buddy on 3/3. You do something special
that you forgot
for Buddy,
about him.
and I'll do something special for Malcolm, and we'll do something with Grayson because God bless you. We support every single thing that you guys do. You're the best, and I'm honored personally and grateful that our friendship has endured the years. And thank you so much for taking time to participate and be a part of Fuzzybutts and Friends.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ginger.
Up you up. Talk soon.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
That's cue for you, Ginger, to cut the recording.
Yes, I know.